Hi friends, welcome to day 15 of our watercolor tip a day series for World Watercolor Month. Today we're playing with dry brushing. Dry brushing is one of the easiest ways to add texture to your watercolor paintings. It's also incredibly versatile. You can use it to create the look of rough tree bark, softness of feathers, or even the fine texture of fur like I did on this bunny. I'll show you exactly how to do it and how to use it in a landscape to add depth, texture, and dimension. Dry brushing is kind of exactly what it sounds like, using a brush that's almost dry with just a little bit of pigment to skim across the surface of your paper. So instead of getting the smooth washes, you get broken textured marks. So the brush skips across the paper's surface, so it's perfect for implying details without actually painting every little thing. This is going to work best on cold press or rough watercolor paper where the texture really catches those little bristle marks. Hot press paper is a bit too smooth for this, so you won't get the same effect. You can see here I'm using a damp brush, it's almost dry, and I'm just running it across the paper. You can make little strokes like this for hair. There's so many different possibilities that you can do and so much amazing texture. You can even layer with this method. Now I want to show you how I bring this landscape to life. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to pick up a small amount of pigment. You don't want a soupy wash. And then you want to blot your brush on a paper towel so it's barely damp. And then we're going to take our brush and go directly into the paint, which is slightly damp. You can add more water if it's not picking up any paint, but the point is you want to see this texture. So we're just going to keep blotting directly into that paint, and you can see how this is broken up and it's just sort of uneven, and that's kind of what we want. So you can use a round brush, you can use a flat brush, even an old splayed out brush. They all give slightly different textures, so the more worn out the brush is, actually the more texture you're gonna get. So this right here, this is a little bit more wet, so this is more of a wet into wet method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of build out a base, and then later I'm going to be able to add more texture on top of that with the dry brush, which I will be doing all over the grass and actually also in the water. So again, we're building out some little trees, and this is basically just a very dry brush with almost just paint on it. And again, that paint is not soupy or wet, it's just a little amount. And then we're just barely blotting that. And you see I'm using the paper towel to blot out any excess water. And basically right now, I'm able to sort of stamp these shapes on by using the texture of the brush. Now these marks here, these are a little bit too wet. They're not exactly dry. So I'm going to sort of blot out my brush till there's like barely anything in it. And I'm sort of doing these short choppy strokes, and you can see how fluffy that kind of grass looks. And this is just giving you an idea of the different sort of textures that you really can get with dry brushing. So I'm just going to do that all over for the base, and then we're going to just keep building on top of this. And this is just a really nice way to give your painting dimension and have it not look flat. It's really great for building up those layers. So I can go darker in the shadow areas and lighter where I want to suggest sunlight. And you can try tilting your brush or using just the corner and see how it creates natural looking grass blades without painting every single one. You can even dry brush like a light ochre or a beige tone to give the ground that sun-baked earthy texture, if you know what I'm saying. But here I'm going over that tree and I'm just sort of making some background. Now dry brushing can even work on water. I know that might sound a little strange, but it is a great way to suggest ripples, movement, or even sparkle of sunlight. So with that brush, I'm just sort of using a muted blue-gray and I'm dragging it horizontally across the water. And the broken lines help give that illusion of windy water or a slightly rough surface. You can layer in different colors here too. Just keep each layer really light. You can also use the same technique for clouds. So I filled my brush up with some white paint, titanium watercolor, and I am just going in and just sort of pressing that in to give those clouds some texture. Very, very light. It's a little hard to see. If you wanted to use a gouache paint, you can do that as well and just give that cloudy sort of texture where it's kind of popping out. You can use thinner brushes. Like I love this brush. This is one of my favorite brushes, and it's a dagger striper brush, but I love to create long, thin grass blades, or like when I'm doing my florals, and I'm essentially just sort of doing the same thing. I'm just using a different brush. So I'm blotting it over and over and creating that sort of haphazard texture. I'm not really thinking about it. I'm using Well, I'm thinking about it, but I'm using my hand very lightly. I'm not very rigid with this. So try to loosen up. I know nobody likes to hear that, but just try to keep your hand loose and try not to overthink it. So whether it's for bark, fur, grass, ripples, dry brushing is one of those techniques that just adds instant realism without too much effort. It's fast, forgiving, and it's so full of personality. I love using it at the final stage of a painting. I also want to show you how you can use this to add mountains. It's so easy. So if you wanted to put a mountain in the background there, you just literally do the same thing. You dry brush in that shape of mountain, and you're sort of skipping, so you're automatically adding in those highlights, or maybe you can even see this as a snowy mountain. And you can also, as I said, build up layers with this, so you can even go darker and build that up just like you would with any other technique. And maybe it's not your final step, so I'm adding in those finishing touches on top of the dry brush. So this is a little bit more of a wet on dry, and we're just having fun with it. And the only way to really learn is to experiment. So I really hope that this was helpful. I hope that you learned something. And if you don't already, I hope that this inspires you to experiment with dry brush in your own work. If you enjoyed this video and picked up a few dry brush tricks to try, make sure you like this video. It really helps the channel and tells YouTube to show it to more watercolor lovers. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss any of the daily tips this month. We're only a little over halfway through, and this is where things are starting to get really fun. Tomorrow we're diving into one of my absolute favorite techniques, salt. It creates the most beautiful, unexpected textures, and honestly, I love it because it feels like a little bit of magic every time we use it. So be sure to come back for that, and until then, keep painting, keep experimenting, and I will see you tomorrow.